So let's go ahead and get started like we normally do. Short period of bell meditation. So wherever you are behind your avatar, please get into a nice meditation posture. Remember, as I ring the Ching bell, the idea, focus on the sound of the bell. Really get that deep listening and that focus going so we can all absorb some Dharma today. Chances are you're going to get distracted. Happens to all of us. When it does, just gently remind yourself and go back to focusing on the sound of the bell. So I'll give you a moment, get into a nice meditation posture, and we'll begin at the sound of the bell. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the teacher. I go for refuge to the Dharma, the teaching. I go for refuge to the Sangha, the taught. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I have taken refuge in the Buddha. I have taken refuge in the Dharma. I have taken refuge in the Sangha. 3 pure precepts. Cease to do harm. Do only good. Do good for others. Bodhisattva vow. However innumerable all beings are, I vow to lead them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Swaha. So once again, welcome. Buddha Center, Temple, Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Again, just a reminder of how Buddhist practice can be relevant in so many different areas of our life. In fact, let's just say all areas of our life. is, again, just a reminder, all these Dharma talks that we're doing right now, these were all done and ready to go long before coronavirus popped up. But again, the subject we're going to be talking about today, navigating life skillfully, is really important right now. To have a way, a practice that we can navigate life, especially as it's being presented to us right now. Because it's so much different than anything we could have expected. So, again, it's called Navigating Life Skillfully. And it starts out with something that may be a shock. It takes skill and flexibility to positively engage your life. And that means under any circumstances, but especially look at it right now. We really have to have skills and flexibility. Right? We need our practice. Because each moment brings with it unique situations that we've got to respond to. And it offers us also unique experiences that we can learn from. So it's a give and take in a way, right? You've learned from experience that you can't act the same way around each person. And you certainly can't act the same way with one person every moment that you're around them. And the fact that causality is affecting them and you in each moment requires that you respond differently in each moment. And the same is true for every event we encounter in life. While events may on the surface seem the same, there are always differences, and so responses and reactions must arise situationally. Example, right now we're going through coronavirus pandemic, and people keep connecting it with the Spanish flu of 1918 and 1919, which there are some similarities, but not enough to make it, we can't act the same way we did then. We can't do the same things. We have to look at it in light of today. Hello, Chris. So to live in this ever-changing world, among ever-changing people and events, takes skill and flexibility. It takes a body-mind that is ready and able to act situationally. And in Buddhist practice, the ability to do this is known as skill in means, or one of my favorite words, upaya. In Buddhist philosophy and practice, the skill in means doctrine is the development and application of actions taken with the acceptance that one needs to develop infinite flexibility in adapting the teaching of the Buddha to suit always changing circumstances. In other words, we got to learn to be situational. We've got to be flexible. We've got to be able to adapt teachings because things are always changing. Skill in means, or you'll usually hear it called skillful means, it's much easier that way, is learning a couple of things. Number one is to know your audience. And this applies, when you're speaking in front of people, or even when you're just maybe going to a party or going over to your parents' house or whatever, you need to know the audience that you're about to deal with, right? And in addition, you've got to know yourself. You got to know how yourself is in each moment. So you've got to maintain mindfulness. So again, it's a practice of both deep awareness of what's going on around you and who you're dealing with, and deep mindfulness of the person who has to do the dealing with, you. The life and teachings of the Buddha are a testament to his ability to speak and act within the worldview of his listeners and watchers. Was Siddhartha born with this skill? No, because nobody's born with that kind of skill. Nobody is born able to understand and adjust to any situation that gets thrown at them. It is a skill that we have to learn. We have to practice it. We have to experience it. We have to let it build into that knowledge, and we begin to realize the ways that we need to act skillfully. The Buddha would first assess the nature of his audience, and then he'd use a variety of tactics and strategies that he felt would guide them out of suffering and unsatisfactoriness. And as a teacher, he was able to transmit the lessons of the Dharma equally well to a Brahmin, or a householder to a king or a thief. He would present the teaching or offer the teaching differently. On his path, Siddhartha studied with the learned masters of his day and culture, and through them he came to know the languages and the worldviews of various mendicants that roamed and taught around India, and how to communicate effectively not only with them, but with all the castes of the Indian people. Again, I want to stop here and remind this is a really good reason we want to engage in lifelong learning, because there's always something that we can learn, right? We want to learn about the worldviews of different peoples and different faiths and different belief systems, because it helps us communicate with others. It's like Sophie was talking about before the session started, about speaking to the folks from Thailand. Right? You want to take those opportunities to talk to people that you know nothing about or know little about and learn something. Now, the Buddha, throughout his life traveling and teaching, he continually improved not only his ability to speak directly to all manner of people, but he also improved his ability to communicate with himself. The doctrine of skill and means is not only valuable then when talking to people. It can be of great value when dealing with all aspects of your life. The trick is, you got to learn how to develop it, and you got to learn how to practice this idea of skillful means. So this ideal is dependent on the realization, number one, that the Dharma is not a static set of dogma and rules. Secondly, its practice instead leads you to make appropriate choices based on the Dharma. Right? So the Dharma is your foundation for making the choices, but choices aren't always easy to make. We have to learn how to make them again in the most skillful way possible. It is a dynamic offering of guidelines and lessons that you can apply to whatever situation you find yourself in, whether it's cultural, personal, or social. So you must practice skillful means moment to moment, so that the application of the skill becomes second nature. It becomes spontaneous. And you begin to act situationally rather than routinely. And I bet if I gave you a moment to think about it, there have been times in your life where you've acted routinely and it hasn't turned out so well. Those were the times that after it was all over, you thought to yourself, I did what I usually do. That didn't work out well. That's because skillful means wasn't applied. The late Venerable Shi Shenlong, or Rugen Fisher Sensei, offered a profound teaching on the Buddhist ideal of employing skillful means when dealing with the life situations that we all face. He recognized that along with a teacher needing flexibility in teaching the Dharma, the layperson needed to practice flexibility when applying the teachings in their everyday experiences. And in order to ensure that each situation could be engaged in the most positive manner and the most effective manner, he offered 3 characteristics of skillful action. These are meant to be intentional practices. Practices that over time and use gradually become a spontaneous way of engaging the world. So what Rugen offered was 3 things. He offered preparation, permission, and resources. These were his, if you want, 3 pillars of skillful means, sort of. Hello, Faye. Happy Friday. So here they are right here. Preparation, permission, and resources. A few weeks back, this kind of got mentioned in the midst of something else. Today, we're going to look at it in a much deeper way. So these are 3 characteristics of a situationally aware body-mind. Ignoring or discounting Any one of these actions could lead to taking inappropriate actions, actions that may prove harmful to yourself or even others. So again, preparation, permission, resources. Let's look at each one of them. Preparation. So preparation, this is the act of learning all you can about a situation before taking action. Learn everything you can about what's going on. Take whatever time is available, right? Sometimes we have a little bit of time to make a decision, but sometimes we have a lot of time to make a decision. So again, you take whatever time you have, whatever time is available, and you think deeply. And then you investigate when you can. So again, it's situational, right? Sometimes you have time to check things out, dig a little deeper. Sometimes you don't. You got to be ready to do either one. Again, what is appropriate? And ask questions when possible. Sometimes it's only you. Now, granted, you can ask yourself questions and answer them. But here I'm thinking more about asking questions of others. And it's dependent on, again, the situation. Do you have time? Is there somebody available to ask the questions to? And these days, we got lots of ways to ask questions, right? Everything from Googling it to calling somebody to asking your mom. So the resources are out there that we can ask questions. Determine the best you can what factors contributed to the situation. Preparation also involves determining what solution to the problem would be most effective in creating and maintaining the harmony, health, and happiness of all involved. Excuse me. So you're kind of looking ahead there. You're kind of preparing for what the solution might be. Maybe call it brainstorming. That's a good term. But you're always looking toward the direction of what can maintain and develop more human flourishing, happiness, health, and harmony. You prepare yourself for the challenge of life in a variety of ways. Early in your life, it was others that did their part to help you prepare. It was parents and it was teachers that were kind of at the top of that list. But now that responsibility is totally on your shoulders. You have to prepare yourself. Nobody else can do this for you. You must engage in lifelong learning. You must always be open to discovering new things about yourself and new knowledge about the world around you. In this fast-paced, fully interconnected world, you can't afford to be ignorant of either yourself or the world around you. Preparation. Let's put this in light of what's going on right now. Excuse me, with this COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't really have much of a chance to prepare, if you will, before this thing started. Right? This jumped us, we didn't know. So we had to find ourselves preparing in the midst of this pandemic. So that's why you had people running out and buying a bunch of toilet paper or buying, hoarding stuff. Because when we're not prepared, we tend to over-prepare in the moment. But throughout this, we are in a continual state of preparation because things are changing daily. We don't know what's going to happen, and we have to get ready to prepare in that next moment. This is not easy to do, and it can cause anxiety, and it can cause fear, and we need to deal with it. So the better we can prepare ourselves, and the better that we can help others prepare, then that can take away that anxiety, right? That can take away some of that fear. And it's interesting, I'm using the COVID-19 pandemic, but it applies to all the times in our life. The better prepared we are, the less anxious we're going to be, and the less fearful we're going to be. Next up, permission. Now, when I was first exposed to this and the word permission came up, this kind of confused me at first. But permission to act comes both from without, right, the permission of others, yes, it's okay, but it also is with your own agreement to act. Right? We have to give ourselves permission to do or to not do. Now, there are instances when the input of others is sought to help make decisions. But other times, the only person we can debate with is ourselves. So we either have to have somebody else or ourselves so we can talk through the effectiveness of any given action we're thinking of taking. Again, this is one of those times, sometimes we have a lot of time to do this, sometimes we don't have much time to do this. But you need to ask yourself if what you are planning will have a negative or a positive effect on the integrity of all the people involved, including yourself. For example, how many parents, with the best of intentions, have helped their child with a science project or even actually completed it for them? Their intention might have been positively directed, but the action may have resulted in negative consequences. Oh, your parents made that for you? You failed. An honest appraisal must be made on whether help is needed or even wanted. So this is one aspect of permission. An important question to ask is, am I doing this for the ultimate benefit of myself or for encompassing and corrective benefit for others? In other words, is it selfish or selfless? Or a mixture of both? And importantly, you've got to give yourself permission to make mistakes. Without that permission, you won't engage fully with life because of the fear of doing something wrong. So what? Being wrong sometimes is just part of human existence. It's part of how we learn. There's nothing to fear from being wrong. There is a lot to fear from not learning from those mistakes, though, and working to do better the next time. Buddhist vows are taken with the full knowledge that mistakes will be made, and with the full knowledge that those will be learning experiences so that the same mistakes can be avoided in future situations. Permission. Let's bring it to the pandemic again. You probably know people like this that they're just so anxiety-ridden and so fearful and so out of sorts because they're having to stay home. And every day this person gets up and says, I really need to be at work. That work is where I need to be. I can't be home anymore. This is driving me crazy. This is often simply because they did not give themselves permission to be home. They're still giving themselves permission to be at work, and they can't be at work. And it's causing suffering. It's causing discontent and unsatisfactoriness. So we have to actually give ourselves permission to follow the rules. My state or local government or whatever it is, my national government has said, stay home, and I'm going to give myself permission to stay home. Just that simple act, that simple little mental act that you can do within yourself can have a very powerful effect on your state of mind and state of being while you're under a lockdown. Just give yourself permission to be there. Give yourself permission to not do a lot that day. So giving yourself permission is very important. Also, it's important to have others give you permission if it's needed. But in my experience, it's the permission we give ourselves that has the most power. And resources. Resources. You can't jump in a lake to save somebody from drowning if you don't know how to swim. You don't have the resources, right? You don't have the knowledge or the skill, so you shouldn't do it. You shouldn't donate hundreds of dollars to charity if you don't have enough to pay your rent. Donating to charity is a wonderful idea. Paying your rent is better. You wouldn't join a fantasy football league if you didn't know the first thing about football. In the first case, you're going to drown too. In the second case, you're going to end up homeless. And in the third case, you're just going to lose because you don't have the resources. Each of these negative consequences arise as a result of an inappropriate view and use of resources. To have a clear view of your resources, you've got to be able to admit what you have and what you don't have. And this doesn't matter if it's material goods, money, skills, knowledge. These are all resources. Your resources don't only come from within then, right? Your knowledge, your money, your skills. It's not always you. Knowing where to find what is needed, who does have the skills, and who can answer the questions is just as valuable a resource as having those things yourself. Resources in a time of a pandemic. Take care, Elizabeth. Have a good weekend. Resources at this time, because we didn't have really a lot of time to prepare for this, resources are, in some cases, in some places, and depending on what it is, hard to come by, right? PPEs, for example, personal protection things. These seem to be very hard to come by. So we have to admit what we have and what we don't have so we can work with what we have and then look to get what we don't have or what we need. But right now, one of the most valuable resources that we each have is our ability to look within ourselves, take care of ourselves first, and then go out and take care of others. That is our most valuable resource, us. Our abilities, our skills, our compassion, our loving kindness. Even if right now we only apply that to ourselves, it still has great value. So again, one of your greatest resources right now is yourself, your practice. The stress and the anxiety that arises in some circumstances can be relieved or even eliminated by practicing the 3 characteristics of skillful action. It can just make you feel more at ease. It can make you feel like you've made an effort to do things better, right? Which we talk about a lot. Being prepared is not just having as much information as possible. It is also being prepared with an awareness of impermanence and causality. In this case of the pandemic, it's being prepared with this knowledge. This will pass. This is not permanent. You are not only ready for the situation as you understand it, you are ready to act positively when the unexpected happens, like now. Practicing the 3 characteristics of skillful action will gradually train you to be skillful in means when approaching any situation you face. Preparation, permission, resources. Skillful means, upaya.